Ain't no way, boy. Ain't no way, boy.
For the record, this what if is in regards to the manga, so the special is not being taken into account. Now, we'll say in this timeline, Gohan brings Trunks along with him as he had just recently discovered Super Saiyan. Instead of Gohan knocking Trunks out unconscious and leaving it all up to him, in this timeline, he's confident he can take them on with him. However, to Gohan's surprise, when the two encounter the android, 17 then reveals he wasn't even using half of his power against Gohan, and 17 would proceed to go all out and toy with both Gohan and Trunks at once, and eventually beat them down to base form. As 17 is about to deal the finishing blow to Gohan, we then see Trunks having just enough ki to emit Super Saiyan and fire a blast at his face. However, all this really accomplished was enraging the android, leading into him then firing a blast through his chest similar to what Cell did in canon, killing Trunks. Gohan, seeing the person who he thought would take his place and restore hope for humanity now die, leaves him feeling completely broken. 17 and 18 both laugh maniacally as Gohan looks at Trunks' lifeless body, completely distraught. With Trunks gone, the only one who can manage to protect humanity is himself, and I wouldn't say he goes Super Saiyan 2 as he only has grade 1, and I feel like just skipping to Super Saiyan 2 is kind of ridiculous, especially because future Gohan stinks, but with Trunks' death, he would enter at least some kind of ascended Super Saiyan. And so, now achieving Super Saiyan grade 2, Gohan now has the power to contend with both androids alone and even overpower them. He wants to toy with them, but he knows that the androids have infinite energy and he isn't stupid like his main timeline self. So when the two androids fire a combined blast in an attempt to kill Gohan, he fires off a one-handed Kamehameha that disperses their attack and completely consumes and atomizes them. Gohan would collapse right after, however, due to exhaustion. And for those people in the comments who are gonna go, well, Gohan wouldn't be strong enough with Ascended Super Saiyan, he's just angry enough to close the gap in power. Anyway, he'd eventually wake up to see Bulma, who's taking care of him currently, just managing to put on her normal act due to the circumstances. Eventually, Gohan would be recovered and could move, leading into him explaining to Bulma what happened, but when she found them, she could already understand what happened. Gohan would blame himself, but Bulma assures to him that he did the best he could, and at least it's finally over. Bulma is definitely going through it, but they at least could finally breathe again. With these events occurring, there is no time traveling, and instead the future would slowly be rebuilt. Now, I know this question will come up, and to answer, no, I do not think Gohan and Bulma would find New Namek, as they have no idea where it is, and Gohan being in Trunks' place does not change that. The only difference is that two people are aware of New Namek instead of one, but they still wouldn't know how to find it. And so for years on end, Gohan would hone his skills to make sure that the future would be safe, and essentially became the Gohan that every fanboy wanted. And with peace being temporarily restored, I think Gohan would manage to pursue his scholarly ideals and even fall in love with a woman named Videl. Also, just for those who may mention this, Gohan would visit his mom once the fight is all over and basically relieve her of her worries. I just wanted to clarify that since I feel like future Chi-Chi gets forgotten about, and she was also going through it. Now, Gohan would go through these Super Saiyan grades, mastering and even harnessing the power that he's had all along, Super Saiyan 2. I feel like with Gohan's new mentality and stepping up to the plate, he would realize that he needs to harness the rage everyone tried helping him control years ago, as shown in the android fight and many times throughout the series, like with Raditz, Nappa, Frieza, etc. If Gohan can utilize this power, no evil could try to stand in his way. Eventually, a green bug tries to come along to absorb the androids, but absorbs a couple people first, leading into Gohan then sensing the drops of energy and senses a presence in the town where the energies were dropping at. Gohan would tell him to come out, and it's revealed to be Cell. After Gohan hears that this thing came to absorb the androids to become Himothy, Gohan would show Cell who's really him, hitting him with a Solar Flare Hyper Masenko combo, erasing him off the face of the earth instantly. Years would go on to pass by once again, and we'd see Gohan and Videl settling on having a baby who would be a baby girl named Pan. Gohan is living his best life, but the threat of Babidi and potentially Boo still exists. One day when Gohan is training outside of his house, which he and Videl would both live in by the way, two mysterious beings arrive and warn Gohan of a threat that could potentially destroy the whole universe. As we all know, this is Shin and Kibito, and initially Gohan would be wary of them, but he could sense their intent and would decide to follow them. When given the rundown, he'd release the Z-Sword like his main series self and nearly break the Z-Sword, but as he's about to test the Z-Sword's limits, we have Babidi and Dabura arrive. Now, Trunks in the original barely won this encounter, and it cost him the death of Shin. The question is now, would that happen in this timeline? And to be honest, I do see a similar outcome. Yes, Gohan has been training for years on end and was initially stronger than Trunks, but it's not like Trunks didn't do the same thing, along with even having 2 whole trips in the time chamber to become stronger. And let's not act like Gohan dying didn't drive him to become stronger in the first place. And plus we're going with the manga, which has a way weaker Gohan. But I think Gohan overall makes up for this as he finds a new mentality and is finally able to be strong while doing what he loves without not reaching his full potential. So similar to Trunks' case, he'd initially lose in his fight with Dabura, but when Shin intercepts and reminds Gohan that if he loses, everyone he loves along with himself dies, the first thing that comes to his mind is fear. But not like the fear he faced as a kid that held him back. It's the fear of losing what he managed to gain even after losing everything already. Gohan has lost everyone he cared about, but the two people he loves the most are still here. His wife and child. Gohan, understanding this, decides to rush in at Dabura with the remaining power he can and then uses a solar flare. With that, he tells Shin to use his powers to restrain both Dabura and Babidi together, which Shin does, but he's literally sacrificing himself in order to actually muster up the energy for this. Bro is literally dying just so that he could set Gohan up, which does actually work here. Gohan musters up enough power to fire a one-handed Kamehameha that completely atomizes both Dabura and Babidi, similar to what he did with the androids, but this time with the help of the gods. Shin would just straight up drop dead after this encounter, and then this leads into Gohan barely bringing peace to the universe. And as we all know, since there's no other timeline, there's no Dragon Ball Super. And with no Dragon Ball Super, this means no other Zeno. And with no other Zeno, this means no Tournament of Power, which technically means Gohan lives in peace until Zeno decides to erase everything he loves. Which, by the way, Gohan just managed to rebuild the family that he lost. So, yeah, it was probably better for Gohan to die instead of Trunks.